The dust swirled around Gabriella Hayes as she stood on the steps of the Sweetwater County Bank, clutching the foreclosure notice in her trembling hands, knowing that by tomorrow, everything her father had built would be lost. The year was 1879, and the Dakota Territory showed no mercy to a woman alone with a ranch to run and no means to save it. Gabriella folded the paper carefully and tucked it into her skirt pocket, her chin held high despite the hopelessness consuming her. 6 months since her father's passing, and the vultures were circling. The bank had been patient, but patience had its limits, especially when there was profit to be made from her family's misfortune. "Miss Hayes," a voice called from behind her. Turning, she saw Mr. Winters, the bank manager, his round spectacles catching the afternoon sun. "I trust you understand the situation now." "I understand that you're taking my home," Gabriella replied, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "The home my father spent 20 years building. Business is business, Miss Hayes. Unless you can produce $500 by tomorrow afternoon, I'm afraid your understanding is correct." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Though Mr. Blackwood has generously offered to settle your debt, if you agree to his marriage proposal." Gabriella's stomach turned at the mention of Edgar Blackwood, the wealthiest rancher in the territory, and a man 30 years her senior with a reputation for cruelty that extended beyond his treatment of cattle. "I would rather lose everything than marry that man," she said, though the words felt hollow. What choice did she truly have? A woman alone in the West had few options, and fewer still that allowed for dignity. "As you wish," Winters replied with a shrug. "But consider your situation carefully, Miss Hayes. A woman without protection in these parts. Well, it's a dangerous proposition." As Winters retreated into the bank, Gabriella forced herself to walk steadily down the street, past the general store where she could no longer purchase goods on credit, past the saloon where coarse laughter spilled onto the dusty road. She felt the stares of the townspeople, some pitying, some calculating. News traveled fast in Sweetwater. "Excuse me, madam." A deep voice interrupted her thoughts as she nearly collided with a broad chest. "Didn't mean to startle you." Gabriella looked up to find herself face to face with a stranger, tall and lean, with sun-bronzed skin and eyes the color of a summer sky. His clothes were trail-worn but clean, the mark of a man who took pride in himself despite modest means. "My apologies," she murmured, attempting to step around him. "No need for apologies," he said, tipping his hat. "Name's Adam Calloway. Just rode into town looking for work." "I wish you luck, Mr. Calloway," Gabriella replied, her mind still on her own troubles. "Though I doubt Sweetwater has much to offer these days." "I heard the Hayes Ranch might be hiring," he said, causing her to stop in her tracks. A bitter laugh escaped her lips before she could catch it. "The Hayes Ranch is being foreclosed upon tomorrow. So unless you're looking to work for Edgar Blackwood, I suggest you continue on to Cheyenne." Adam's expression shifted, his easy smile fading. "That's mighty unfortunate. I heard good things about that place. Fair wages, decent treatment." "My father believed in treating men with respect," Gabriella said, a lump forming in her throat. "But he's been gone these past 6 months, and I've not been able to." She stopped herself, embarrassed to be sharing her troubles with a stranger. "I'm sorry for your loss, Mississippi. Hayes." Gabriella Hayes. She hesitated. "And I apologize, but I really must be going." "Of course." Adam stepped aside, but his eyes remained thoughtful. "Though if you don't mind me asking, how much is the bank looking for?" Gabriella stiffened. "That's hardly your concern, Mr. Calloway." "No, it isn't," he agreed easily. "Just curious about the going rate for a good ranch these days." $500, she answered, the sum tasting bitter on her tongue. "Now, if you'll excuse me." Gabriella continued down the street, her mind racing. $500 might as well be 5,000. She had just $27.16 hidden in a tin beneath a floorboard in her bedroom, all that remained after paying the hands their final wages and settling her father's medical debts. By the time she reached the edge of town, where her wagon waited, Gabriella had resigned herself to the inevitable. She would have to consider Blackwood's offer, repulsive as it was. The alternative, losing her home, her father's legacy, seemed unbearable. The ride back to the ranch was long and lonely. The late afternoon sun cast golden light across the rolling grasslands, painting the landscape in hues that usually brought her comfort. Today, They only reminded her of all she was about to lose. As the ranch came into view, the sturdy two-story house her father had built with his own hands, the barn and corrals, the bunkhouse now empty of the ranch hands she'd been forced to let go, Gabriella felt the weight of failure pressing down upon her. She guided the wagon to the barn, methodically unhitching the horse and seeing to its needs before finally allowing herself to trudge toward the house. The porch steps creaked beneath her weight, a familiar sound that would soon be nothing but a memory. Gabriella had just lit the oil lamp in the kitchen when the sound of approaching hoofbeats made her freeze. Visitors at this hour were unusual, and given her circumstances, unlikely to bring good news. Cautiously, she moved to the window, peering out into the gathering dusk. A lone rider approached, his silhouette familiar even in the dimming light. Adam Calloway. What business could the stranger possibly have at her ranch? Hand resting on her father's old revolver, she stepped onto the porch as Adam dismounted. "Mr. Calloway, this is unexpected." "Miss Hayes," he greeted, removing his hat. "I apologize for intruding, but I had some thinking to do after our conversation in town." "And that thinking led you to my doorstep?" A slight smile touched his lips. "It did. I've got a proposition for you, if you're willing to hear it." Gabriella tensed. She'd had enough propositions for one day. "I'm listening, but be brief." "It's getting late. I've been riding the territory for the past year, working ranch to ranch, saving every penny I could," Adam said, his voice steady. "I was aiming to start something of my own, but the right opportunity never presented itself." "And now you think my misfortune is your opportunity?" Gabriella asked sharply. "Not exactly." Adam took a step forward, his expression earnest. "I've got $480 to my name. It's not quite what you need, but why would you offer such a thing to a stranger?" Gabriella interrupted, suspicion flaring. "No man gave away a year's savings without expecting something in return." "I'm not offering it for nothing," Adam clarified. "I'm proposing a partnership. My money and labor to save your ranch, in exchange for a stake in the operation." Gabriella stared at him, speechless. A partnership? With a man she'd met mere hours ago? "I know it sounds crazy," Adam continued into her silence. "But your father built a reputation for honest dealings and quality stock. That's worth something. And frankly, Miss Hayes, from what I gather, you don't have many options." The truth of his words stung. "You're right about that," she admitted. "But even if I were desperate enough to consider such an arrangement, which I'm not saying, I am, you're still $20 short." Adam nodded, reaching into his pocket and extracting a small leather pouch. "I've also got this." He opened it, revealing a gleaming gold pocket watch. "It was my father's. Should fetch at least $30 from the right buyer." Gabriella studied him, searching for signs of deception. His eyes met hers steadily, without guile. "Why would you part with something so valuable for a stranger's ranch?" "Because I believe in building something that lasts," he answered simply. "And because I think we could make this work, you and I." The offer was tempting, far more tempting than Blackwood's proposal. Yet suspicion lingered. "What kind of partnership are you envisioning, exactly?" "A business arrangement, pure and simple," Adam said. "I provide the money to save the ranch, plus my labor and experience. In return, I get a third of the profits once we're turning them. You retain ownership of the land and final say in all matters. If either of us wants to dissolve the partnership after a year, you buy out my share when you're able." It sounded reasonable, almost too reasonable. "And if I can never buy out your share?" "Then we continue as partners until circumstances change." He shrugged. "I'm not looking to take advantage, Miss Hayes. I just want a fair chance at building something worthwhile." Gabriella's mind raced, weighing possibilities, searching for the catch. "How do I know you won't simply take over once you've gotten a foothold?" "You don't," Adam admitted. "Just as I don't know that you won't run me off once the bank's been paid. Trust works both ways, Miss Hayes." The honesty of his response caught her off guard. Most men would have made empty promises of integrity, not acknowledged the risk inherent in such an arrangement. "I need time to think," she said finally. "The bank expects payment tomorrow afternoon," Adam reminded her gently. "I don't mean to rush you, but time's a luxury you don't have." Gabriella took a deep breath, knowing he was right. Her options were clear. Accept Adam's proposal, marry Blackwood, or lose everything. "If we do this," she said slowly, "there would need to be terms. Written terms." Hope flickered in Adam's eyes. Of course, whatever would make you comfortable. And you would follow my lead when it comes to decisions about the ranch. Within reason, he countered. I'm investing everything I have. I'd expect my experience and opinion to carry some weight. Gabriella nodded, appreciating his directness. Come inside, Mr. Calloway. If we're to be partners, we have details to discuss. The kitchen was warm compared to the cooling evening air. Gabriella gestured for Adam to take a seat at the worn oak table while she fetched paper, ink, and her father's ledger. Would you care for coffee? She offered, falling back on the hospitality her mother had instilled in her before consumption had claimed her life 10 years prior. That would be much appreciated, Miss Hayes. As Gabriella busied herself with the coffee pot, she studied Adam surreptitiously. His movements were confident but not arrogant, his eyes taking in the kitchen with appreciation rather than assessment. He removed his gloves, revealing calloused hands that spoke of years of hard work. Your home is exactly what I pictured, he commented, breaking the silence. Sturdy, practical, built to last. My father was a practical man, Gabriella replied, placing 2 steaming cups on the table before taking the seat across from him. He came west with nothing but determination and a dream of building something worthwhile. Sounds like a man I would have respected, Adam said, wrapping his hands around the warm cup. He would have questioned your sanity for this proposal, Gabriella remarked with a hint of a smile. Adam chuckled. Fair enough. But sometimes the craziest decisions are the ones that change our lives for the better. They spent the next hour outlining the terms of their partnership. Adam would provide the money to satisfy the bank, plus his labor and expertise. Gabriella would retain ownership of the land and buildings, with Adam receiving 1/3 of any profits once expenses were covered. After 1 year, either party could dissolve the partnership, with Gabriella having the option to buy out Adam's interest over time. There's one more thing, Gabriella said as she penned the final clause. Your living arrangements. Adam looked up from studying the figures in the ledger. I assumed I'd stay in the bunkhouse. The bunkhouse is empty at present. I had to let the hands go when. She hesitated. When funds became scarce. All the more reason for me to stay there, Adam pointed out. Gabriella shook her head. It wouldn't be proper. A single woman living alone with a male business partner, the gossip would be relentless. Adam considered this. You're right, of course. Perhaps I could find lodging in town. That would defeat the purpose of having you here to work the ranch, Gabriella said, frustration evident in her voice. She hadn't considered this complication. And Sweetwater is a half-hour ride each way. We could hire hands soon enough, Adam suggested. That would solve the propriety issue. With what money? Gabriella asked pointedly. After paying the bank, we'll have next to nothing until we can bring some cattle to market. Adam frowned, recognizing the dilemma. What about neighbors? Is there anyone nearby who might take me in temporarily? The nearest neighbor is the Wilsons, and they're 5 miles west, Gabriella said, then sighed. But they have a spare room they sometimes rent to travelers. Mrs. Wilson might be willing to accommodate you, at least until we can make other arrangements. That sounds reasonable, Adam agreed. Though it will mean I can't start work at first light. It's the best solution for now, Gabriella insisted. Once we've stabilized our situation, we can reconsider. With that final point settled, they each signed the agreement. Gabriella felt a strange mixture of relief and apprehension as she watched Adam fold his copy and tuck it into his shirt pocket. We should go to the bank first thing tomorrow, she said, rising from the table. Mr. Winters opens at 9 o'clock sharp. Adam nodded, getting to his feet. I'll ride to town with you. We can settle this business once and for all. As she walked him to the door, Gabriella was struck by the peculiarity of their situation. Yesterday, she had been alone and facing ruin. Tonight, she had a business partner and the possibility of saving her home. Thank you, she said quietly as Adam stepped onto the porch. I still don't fully understand why you're doing this, but I'm grateful nonetheless. Sometimes opportunity and need find each other at just the right moment, Adam replied, settling his hat on his head. Get some rest, Miss Hayes. Tomorrow marks a new beginning for both of us. As Gabriella watched him ride away, the moonlight silvering the landscape, she wondered if she had made the right decision or merely postponed the inevitable. Adam Calloway seemed honorable, but she had learned the hard way that appearances could be deceiving. Still, for the first time in months, Hope flickered within her, fragile, uncertain, but present. She thought she had no choice, but perhaps she had found one after all. Morning arrived with a clarity that seemed to mirror Gabriella's newfound resolve. She dressed with care, choosing her best skirt and jacket, determined to face Mr. Winters with dignity. The tin box beneath her floorboard yielded its meager contents, the $27 that represented her last resources, which she added to the partnership funds. Adam arrived precisely at 8:30, freshly shaven and wearing a clean shirt beneath his work-worn jacket. His smile was confident as he dismounted. "Good morning, Miss Hayes. Ready to settle accounts with the bank?" "As ready as I'll ever be," Gabriella replied, climbing onto the wagon seat. They rode to town side by side, the morning sun warming their backs. Gabriella found herself stealing glances at her new partner, still somewhat amazed by the turn of events. There was an ease to Adam's presence that she hadn't noticed the day before, a quiet strength that reminded her of her father. "Do you have family somewhere, Mr. Calloway?" she asked, breaking the companionable silence. "Call me Adam," he replied. "And no, not anymore. My parents died of fever when I was 17. Had a brother once, but he went north to the Montana Territory years ago. Haven't heard from him since." "I'm sorry," Gabriella said, recognizing the familiar tone of someone who had learned to live with loss. "Life shapes us in unexpected ways," Adam said with a slight shrug. "What about you? Any family besides your father?" Gabriella shook her head. "My mother died when I was 12. No siblings. My father was everything to me." "That explains your determination to save the ranch," Adam observed. "It's more than land to you." "It's his legacy," Gabriella confirmed. "Everything he worked for, everything he believed in." They fell silent as Sweetwater came into view, the morning bustle already evident as merchants opened their shops and ranchers arrived to conduct business. Gabriella felt the familiar tightening in her chest that accompanied every trip to town since her father's death, the awareness of pitying glances and whispered conversations. "People will talk," she warned Adam as they approached the bank. "About us, about this arrangement." "Let them," Adam replied simply. "What matters is what we build together, not what others assume." His confidence bolstered her resolve as they tied the horses and entered the bank. Mr. Winters looked up from his desk, surprise evident in his expression as he took in the pair standing before him. "Miss Hayes," he greeted, his eyes shifting curiously to Adam. "I wasn't expecting you until this afternoon. I prefer to handle unpleasant business early in the day, Mr. Winters," Gabriella replied. "This is Mr. Adam Calloway, my business partner. We're here to settle my father's debt." Winters' eyebrows rose nearly to his hairline. "Business partner? This is the first I've heard of such an arrangement." "It's recent," Adam interjected smoothly, extending his hand. "Adam Calloway, sir. Pleased to meet you." Winters shook Adam's hand reflexively, his gaze calculating. "I see. And you're prepared to satisfy the Hayes debt in full? Today?" "We are," Gabriella confirmed, her heart pounding as Adam withdrew an envelope from his jacket pocket. Adam counted out the bills methodically, placing them on Winters' desk while the banker watched with poorly concealed disappointment. $500 exactly Adam's savings, the proceeds from his pocket watch sold to the jeweler that morning, and Gabriella's meager contribution. "Everything appears to be in order," Winters said finally, pushing a receipt across the desk. "The Hayes property is no longer in default." Relief washed over Gabriella so intensely that she gripped the edge of the desk to steady herself. "Thank you, Mr. Winters. I'll expect the deed to remain in my name." "Of course," the banker replied, his tone suggesting he expected their reprieve to be temporary. "Though I must say, Miss Hayes, this is an unusual solution to your predicament." "Sometimes unusual solutions are the most effective," Adam commented, his hand coming to rest lightly on Gabriella's elbow. "Good day, Mr. Winters." As they stepped out into the morning sunshine, Gabriella exhaled deeply. "We did it," she said, wonder in her voice. "The ranch is safe. For now," Adam cautioned. "We still have a lot of work ahead to make it profitable again." "I know," Gabriella acknowledged. "But for the first time in months, I feel like it might actually be possible." Their moment of triumph was short-lived. As they moved toward their waiting horses, a commanding voice called out, "Gabriella, a word, if you please." Edgar Blackwood approached, his expensive boots raising small clouds of dust with each deliberate step. Tall and broad-shouldered, with iron-gray hair and cold eyes, he cut an imposing figure. The silver handle of his walking stick gleamed in the sunlight as he planted it firmly before him. "Mr. Blackwood," Gabriella greeted with forced politeness. "I'm afraid I'm rather busy today." "I just spoke with Winters," Blackwood said, ignoring her dismissal. His gaze shifted to Adam, assessing him with open disdain. "He tells me you've found a partner to help with your financial difficulties." "That's correct," Gabriella confirmed, lifting her chin slightly. "Mr. Calloway and I have entered into a business arrangement that has resolved my debt to the bank." Blackwood's laugh was sharp and humorless. "A business arrangement? Is that what they're calling it these days?" Adam stepped forward, his expression neutral but his stance protective. "Mr. Blackwood, I presume?" "I've heard about your interest in the Hayes property." "My interest extends beyond the property," Blackwood replied coldly. "Gabriella knows I've offered her a perfectly respectable alternative to selling her father's land, one that would have secured her future." "I declined your proposal, Mr. Blackwood," Gabriella said firmly. "And now the matter is settled." Blackwood's eyes narrowed. "Nothing is settled, my dear. You've merely postponed the inevitable. Running a ranch takes more than optimism and a drifter's savings." "Then it's fortunate that we have more than that," Adam replied evenly. "We also have determination, experience, and a clear vision for the future." "Bold words from a man I've never seen before yesterday," Blackwood remarked. "Sweetwater has a way of separating dreamers from doers, Mr. Calloway. I wonder which you'll prove to be." "Time will tell," Adam said with a slight smile. "Now, if you'll excuse us, we have a ranch to run." Blackwood's jaw tightened, but he stepped aside. "Indeed. I'll be watching your progress with great interest, Gabriella. My offer remains open, should your partnership prove less advantageous than anticipated." As they walked away, Gabriella could feel Blackwood's gaze boring into her back. "He won't give up easily," she murmured to Adam. "He's wanted our land for years. Says it controls the best water access in the county." "He's right about that," Adam acknowledged. "Your father chose his property wisely. But Blackwood will have to find another way to expand his empire. We're not selling." The confidence in his voice, the casual use of "we," sent an unexpected warmth through Gabriella. For so long, she had faced her challenges alone. Having someone beside her, someone who shared her determination, was both foreign and deeply comforting. "We should stop at the general store before heading back," she suggested, changing the subject. "We need supplies if we're going to restart operations." The store was busy when they entered, and Gabriella felt the curious stares of the other customers as she and Adam moved through the aisles. Mrs. Peterson, the storekeeper's wife, watched them with undisguised interest as they selected flour, coffee, bacon, and other necessities. "Good morning, Miss Hayes, Mrs. Peterson greeted as they approached the counter. "I see you've brought a friend with you today." "Good morning, Mrs. Peterson. This is Mr. Calloway, my business partner," Gabriella explained, already tired of the explanation but knowing it was necessary. "We're restocking the ranch." "Business partner," Mrs. Peterson exclaimed, her eyes lighting with gossip-hungry interest. "How fascinating. And what kind of business might that be?" "Cattle, primarily," Adam answered smoothly, "though we're considering diversifying in the future." Mrs. Peterson looked disappointed by the mundane response. "I see. Well, it's about time someone helped poor Gabriella with that ranch. Such a burden for a young woman alone." Gabriella bit back a sharp retort, reminding herself that Mrs. Peterson meant well, despite her prying nature. "Yes, I'm fortunate that Mr. Calloway was willing to invest in our operation." As Mrs. Peterson tallied their purchases, the bell above the door jingled, announcing another customer. Gabriella turned to see Sarah Wilson, her nearest neighbor, entering the store. "Gabriella," Sarah exclaimed warmly, "I was hoping to see you in town today." "Sarah," Gabriella greeted with genuine pleasure. Sarah, only a few years older than Gabriella's 22 years, had been a steadfast friend since the Hayes family had first established their ranch. "How are things at your place?" "Busy as always," Sarah replied with a smile. Her gaze shifted curiously to Adam. "And who might this be?" "Adam Calloway." He introduced himself, extending his hand. "I've just become Miss Hayes' business partner." Sarah's eyebrows rose as she shook his hand. "Is that so? Well, that's certainly news. Gabriella hasn't mentioned any partnership." It's very recent, Gabriella explained. In fact, I was hoping to speak with you about possibly renting your spare room to Mr. Calloway, at least temporarily, while we get the ranch back on its feet. Understanding dawned in Sarah's eyes. Of course, she said, her smile returning. Mother would be delighted to have a boarder again. It's been too quiet since Father hired that new foreman who preferred to stay in the bunkhouse. I'd be grateful, Adam said, and I'm happy to help with any repairs or heavy work while I'm there. I'll tell Mother to expect you this evening, Sarah assured him. Now, Gabriella, you must tell me everything. This is the most exciting news we've had in Sweetwater for months. Gabriella smiled, recognizing that her friend's curiosity came from genuine care rather than the judgmental interest of others in town. Why don't you join us for dinner on Sunday? I can explain everything then. I'll hold you to that, Sarah promised. And I expect all the details, not just the respectable version you're giving Mrs. Peterson. With their business in town concluded, Gabriella and Adam loaded their supplies into the wagon and began the journey back to the ranch. The morning's events had left Gabriella both exhilarated and exhausted. The emotional swing from despair to hope was dizzying. That went better than I expected, Adam commented as they left the town behind. Though your Mr. Blackwood seems determined to cause trouble. He's not my Mr. Blackwood, Gabriella corrected sharply. And yes, he's trouble. He's been trying to consolidate control of the water rights in this part of the territory for years. My father refused to sell, no matter how much pressure Blackwood applied. Smart man, Adam remarked. Water is more valuable than gold out here. Control that, and you control everything. Gabriella nodded, impressed by his understanding. Exactly. Our land includes the headwaters of Cottonwood Creek, which feeds half the grazing land in the county during the dry months. No wonder Blackwood wants it so badly, Adam mused. A man like that isn't accustomed to being denied what he wants. No, Gabriella agreed quietly. He isn't. They rode in silence for a while, each lost in thought. The land stretched around them, vast and beautiful in the spring sunshine. The rolling grasslands were greening after winter's dormancy, dotted with early wildflowers. In the distance, the silhouette of the mountains provided a majestic backdrop to the scene. It's beautiful country, Adam observed, his gaze taking in the landscape appreciatively. Your father chose well. He always said he fell in love with this valley the moment he saw it, Gabriella replied, smiling at the memory. Said it spoke to his soul. I can understand that, Adam said softly. Some places just feel right from the first moment. As the ranch came into view, Gabriella felt a renewed sense of purpose. This morning, she had ridden out fearing it might be her last day as mistress of her father's land. Now, she returned with hope for the future and a partner to share the burden. We should make a plan, she said as they approached the barn. Assess what needs to be done first. Adam nodded. I noticed on the way in that your south fence line needs repair. And how many head of cattle do you have left? 17, Gabriella admitted, embarrassment coloring her voice. I had to sell most of the herd to cover expenses after father died. The hands stayed as long as they could, but eventually. 17 is enough to start rebuilding, Adam assured her. Quality breeding stock is what matters now, not quantity. As they unloaded the supplies, Gabriella was struck by how naturally they worked together, anticipating each other's movements, sharing the labor without discussion. It reminded her of watching her parents in the early years, before her mother's illness, the easy rhythm of two people united in purpose. I'll stable the horses if you want to take the supplies inside, Adam offered, already unbuckling the harnesses. Thank you, Gabriella replied, gathering the parcels. Once you're done, perhaps we could tour the property? I'd like to show you what we're working with. Adam smiled, the expression transforming his face. I'd like that very much. The afternoon passed quickly as Gabriella led Adam around the ranch. They inspected the fences, outbuildings, and grazing lands, discussing repairs and improvements with a shared enthusiasm that surprised Gabriella. Adam's knowledge of ranching was evident in his observations and suggestions, reinforcing her tentative trust in their partnership. Your father built solid foundations, Adam remarked as they examined the corral. Most of what we're facing is maintenance, not major reconstruction. The drought last summer didn't help, Gabriella explained. We had to drive the cattle farther each day for decent grazing, which meant less time for other work. We should consider planting some alfalfa in the north section, Adam suggested. The soil looks good there, and it would provide feed for the winter months. Gabriella nodded, impressed by the practicality of the idea. Father always talked about doing that, but there was never enough time or hands to spare. As the sun began its descent toward the western horizon, they made their way back to the house. Gabriella felt an unexpected awkwardness as they reached the porch steps. Normally, she would invite him in for coffee or a meal, but their unconventional arrangement made her hesitate. "I should get to the Wilsons before dark," Adam said, seeming to sense her discomfort. "What time shall I return in the morning?" "Is 7 too early?" Gabriella asked. "There's much to do, and the days are growing longer." 7 is perfect," Adam assured her. "I'm an early riser by nature." As he turned to retrieve his horse, Gabriella called after him, "Adam?" He looked back, eyebrows raised in question. "Thank you," she said simply. "For everything." His smile was gentle, understanding. "We're partners now, Gabriella. Your success is my success." She watched him ride away, his figure silhouetted against the sunset, and wondered at the strange turn her life had taken. Yesterday, desperation had been her only companion. Today, she had a partner, a plan, and a future that suddenly seemed possible again. Inside the house, Gabriella moved through the familiar evening routine with renewed energy. For the first time since her father's death, the emptiness of the rooms didn't weigh on her spirits. Instead, she found herself looking forward to tomorrow, making lists in her mind of tasks to be accomplished, improvements to be made. As she prepared a simple supper, Gabriella reflected on Adam Calloway. He was a puzzle, a drifter with the manners of a gentleman, a man willing to risk everything he owned on a struggling ranch, and a woman he barely knew. What was his true motivation? The practical part of her remained suspicious, yet something in his direct gaze and straightforward manner inspired trust. That night, Gabriella slept more soundly than she had in months, her dreams untroubled by the specter of loss that had haunted her for so long. Morning brought clear skies and a gentle breeze that carried the scent of spring across the land. Gabriella rose before dawn, dressing in her work clothes and preparing a substantial breakfast. By the time the sun crested the eastern hills, she had fed the remaining livestock, tidied the house, and set coffee to boil on the stove. Adam arrived precisely at 7, looking refreshed and eager to begin the day's work. "Morning," he greeted, removing his hat as he entered the kitchen. "Something smells wonderful." "Just bacon and biscuits," Gabriella replied, gesturing for him to take a seat at the table. "I thought we could use a good breakfast before starting." "Much appreciated," Adam said with evident sincerity. "Mrs. Wilson provided supper last night, but her cooking doesn't compare to these biscuits." Gabriella felt an unexpected flush of pleasure at the compliment. "My mother's recipe. She taught me before she passed." They ate companionably, discussing the day's priorities. Adam suggested beginning with the fence repairs, while Gabriella planned to assess the condition of the vegetable garden that had been neglected in recent months. "I was thinking about what you said yesterday regarding alfalfa," Gabriella said as she poured more coffee. "I found some of Father's old seed catalogs. We could order what we need next time we're in town." "Good idea," Adam agreed. "Though we should start small, maybe 5 acres to test how it does in this soil. We can expand next season if it proves successful." His use of "we" and "next season" didn't escape Gabriella's notice. Despite the terms of their agreement specifying a potential dissolution after 1 year, Adam spoke as though their partnership had a future beyond that. After breakfast, they parted to their separate tasks, Adam to the south fence line with tools loaded in a cart, Gabriella to the overgrown garden plot near the house. The work was hard but satisfying, a welcome change from the months of worry and indecision that had preceded it. By midday, Gabriella had cleared half the garden of weeds and turned the soil in preparation for planting. Her muscles ached pleasantly, and dirt smudged her cheeks and clothes, but she felt more alive than she had in months. The simple act of preparing the earth for new growth seemed symbolic of the fresh start she and Adam were attempting. She had just straightened to stretch her back when she noticed a rider approaching from the direction of town. As the figure drew closer, her momentary contentment evaporated. Edgar Blackwood, astride his magnificent black stallion. Removing her gardening gloves, Gabriella steeled herself for the confrontation. Blackwood was not a man who accepted defeat gracefully, and yesterday's events at the bank would have only fueled his determination. "Miss Hayes," Blackwood called as he dismounted with surprising agility for a man of his years. "You're looking industrious today." "Mr. Blackwood," Gabriella acknowledged coolly. "This is unexpected." "Is it?" His smile didn't reach his eyes. "I thought I made it clear yesterday that our conversation was merely postponed, not concluded." "I believe I was equally clear about my position," Gabriella replied. "The ranch is not for sale, and I have declined your marriage proposal. There's nothing more to discuss." Blackwood's expression hardened. "I admire your spirit, Gabriella. It's one of the qualities that attracted me to you. But you're being foolish. This arrangement with Calloway, it won't last." "That's for Mr. Calloway and me to determine," Gabriella said firmly. "Is it?" Blackwood took a step closer, his voice lowering. "Do you know anything about this man you've tied your future to? His background? His character? For all you know, he could be running from the law, or worse." The thought had occurred to Gabriella, but hearing it from Blackwood's lips made her instantly defensive of Adam. "I know enough. He's honest, hardworking, and he didn't try to coerce me into marriage when I was vulnerable." Anger flashed in Blackwood's eyes. "Coercion? I offered you security, respectability. What does he offer except empty promises and borrowed time?" "He offers partnership," Gabriella replied, lifting her chin, "and respect for my father's legacy." "Partnership?" Blackwood scoffed. "A pretty word for a pretty girl. But this is ranching country, Gabriella. It's no place for idealism or sentimentality. It requires capital, connections, and the stomach for hard decisions." "Like forcing a woman to choose between her home and her freedom?" Gabriella asked sharply. "That kind of hard decision?" Blackwood's jaw tightened. "You misjudge me. My proposal was sincere. I admire you, Gabriella. A union between us would be advantageous for both parties." "Advantageous," Gabriella repeated. "Not exactly the foundation for a marriage I envisioned." "And what did you envision? Some romantic fantasy where love conquers all?" Blackwood's laugh was cold. "Your father indulged your reading habits too much. Real life isn't found in novels." Before Gabriella could respond, the sound of approaching footsteps drew their attention. Adam strode toward them, his expression carefully neutral despite the tension evident in his posture. "Mr. Blackwood," he greeted with a nod. "Twice in 2 days. We're honored by your interest in our operation." "Calloway," Blackwood acknowledged curtly. "I was just explaining to Miss Hayes the realities of ranching in this territory. It's not for the faint-hearted or the undercapitalized." "On that we agree," Adam replied evenly. "Fortunately, we have the determination to overcome the latter challenge." "Determination," Blackwood echoed mockingly. "A valuable commodity, certainly, but it won't buy cattle or pay hands or survive a drought." "Perhaps not," Adam conceded, "but it will keep us working when others might surrender. And sometimes that makes all the difference." Blackwood studied Adam with narrowed eyes. "You speak well for a ranch hand. Almost too well. Makes a man wonder about your background." "My background is my own affair," Adam replied, his tone cooling. "Just as Miss Hayes' future is hers to decide, not yours." The two men regarded each other in tense silence, the air between them charged with unspoken challenge. Gabriella watched, her heart pounding, aware that more than pride was at stake in this confrontation. "Well," Blackwood said finally, breaking the stalemate, "I can see you're both determined to learn the hard way. So be it." He turned to Gabriella, his expression softening slightly. "When reality proves harsher than your expectations, remember that my offer remains open." "Good day, Mr. Blackwood," Gabriella replied firmly, making it clear the conversation was over. With a tight smile and a curt nod to Adam, Blackwood mounted his horse and rode away, his straight back and proud posture betraying no hint of defeat. Once he was out of earshot, Gabriella released a shaky breath. "That man is insufferable. And dangerous," Adam added quietly. "Men like Blackwood aren't accustomed to being denied what they want. He'll look for ways to undermine us." "What could he possibly do?" Gabriella asked. "The debt is paid. The ranch is secure." "For now," Adam agreed. "But ranching involves more than land. We need to sell cattle eventually, hire hands, purchase supplies. Blackwood has influence in this territory. He could make those things difficult." Gabriella's stomach tightened at the thought. "You think he would go that far?" I think a man who offers marriage as a business transaction is capable of many things, Adam replied grimly. We should be prepared. The encounter had cast a shadow over the day's progress. As they returned to their respective tasks, Gabriella found her earlier contentment replaced by nagging worry. What if Blackwood was right? What if their partnership was doomed from the start? By late afternoon, the physical labor had helped dissipate some of her anxiety. Adam had made significant progress on the fence line, replacing rotted posts and mending wire with efficient precision. Gabriella had finished clearing the garden and begun planting the early spring vegetables, peas, radishes, and lettuce that would supplement their diet in the coming weeks. As the sun began its descent, Adam returned to the house, his shirt damp with honest sweat, his face showing the satisfaction of a day's work well done. The south fence should hold now, he reported as Gabriella offered him a dipper of cool water from the well. I'll start on the west section tomorrow. You've accomplished more in one day than I managed in a week on my own, Gabriella admitted, impressed by his industry. Many hands make light work, Adam replied with a smile. And speaking of hands, I was thinking we should consider hiring at least one ranch hand soon. There's too much for just the two of us, especially with spring calving season approaching. Gabriella hesitated. I'm not sure we can afford it yet. We can if we're selective, Adam insisted. Maybe a younger man willing to work for room, board, and a modest wage. Someone eager to learn the business. The idea had merit, Gabriella had to admit. Even with both of them working from dawn to dusk, certain tasks required more than two pairs of hands. Perhaps you're right. We could ask around town next time we're there. Adam nodded, his expression thoughtful. Actually, Mrs. Wilson mentioned her nephew is arriving from Ohio next week. Apparently, he's hoping to find work on a ranch, learn the trade from the ground up. Sarah never mentioned a nephew, Gabriella said, surprised. He's her mother's sister's boy, Adam explained. Daniel, I believe his name is. Young, but strong and eager to work, according to Mrs. Wilson. It could be a good solution, Gabriella acknowledged, if he's willing to accept modest wages to start. I'll speak with him when he arrives, Adam promised. See what kind of young man he is. As they stood together in the fading light, the day's work behind them and plans for tomorrow taking shape, Gabriella felt an unexpected sense of partnership that went beyond their written agreement. There was something comforting about sharing both the labor and the decision-making after months of struggling alone. Would you like to stay for supper? She offered impulsively. It's nothing fancy, just stew from yesterday and fresh bread, but there's plenty. Adam hesitated, clearly weighing propriety against hunger and fatigue. I should probably head back to the Wilsons. It's nearly dark, Gabriella pointed out. And you've worked hard all day. Surely a meal before you ride back isn't improper. His smile was warm. When you put it that way, how can I refuse? Inside, Gabriella busied herself with preparing the meal while Adam washed up at the pump outside. The domesticity of the scene struck her as both strange and natural, as though they had fallen into a routine that had always existed, just waiting to be discovered. Supper was a comfortable affair, their conversation flowing easily from ranch matters to broader topics. Adam spoke of his travels across the Western Territories, of the changes he'd witnessed as railroads pushed ever westward and settlements grew into towns. Gabriella shared stories of her childhood on the ranch, of lessons learned from her father and dreams for the future. He taught me everything he knew about ranching, she said, a hint of pride in her voice. Said there was no reason a woman couldn't run cattle as well as a man, so long as she was willing to work twice as hard to prove it. Wise man, Adam commented. And clearly, his daughter was an apt pupil. I was, Gabriella agreed. Though I still have much to learn. Father always said ranching was a lifetime education. Just when you think you understand it all, nature reminds you how little you actually know. Adam laughed, the sound rich and genuine. That's the truth of it. My first job was on a spread in western Kansas. Thought I knew everything after 6 months. Then came the blizzard of '71, and I realized how much I had to learn about survival, let alone ranching. That must have been frightening, Gabriella said, trying to imagine the young Adam facing such a trial. Terrifying, he admitted, but educational. The foreman there, old Jake Sutton, taught me more in those 3 weeks than I'd learned in years before. Not just about cattle, but about planning ahead, reading the land, trusting your instincts. The evening deepened around them as they talked, the oil lamp casting a warm glow over the kitchen. Outside, the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, and a gentle breeze rustled through the cottonwoods near the creek. It was only when the mantel clock chimed 9 that Adam reluctantly rose from his chair. I should be going. Mrs. Wilson will worry if I'm much later. Of course, Gabriella agreed, suddenly aware of how long they had lingered over empty plates and cooling coffee. Thank you for today's work. I feel like we've made real progress. We have, Adam confirmed, reaching for his hat. Tomorrow we'll do more. At the door, he paused, turning back to her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. Gabriella, he began, then hesitated. Yes, I want you to know that whatever Blackwood might insinuate, my intentions regarding this partnership are honorable. I believe in what we're trying to build here. The sincerity in his voice touched something in Gabriella that had been closed off since her father's death, a willingness to trust, to hope for more than mere survival. I believe you, she said simply. Good night, Adam. Good night, Gabriella. As his footsteps faded into the night, Gabriella remained at the door for a long moment, watching as his silhouette disappeared down the moonlit road toward the Wilson place. A strange mixture of emotions swirled within her: relief at having found a partner in her struggle, apprehension about the challenges ahead, and something else, something warmer and more personal that she wasn't quite ready to examine. With a sigh, she closed the door and began clearing the supper dishes, her mind already turning to tomorrow's tasks and the uncertain future that awaited them. The days that followed established a rhythm to their partnership. Adam arrived at first light, and they worked until dusk, tackling the myriad tasks required to restore the ranch to productivity. Fences were mended, outbuildings repaired, and the small herd of cattle carefully tended. Each evening, Adam would ride back to the Wilsons, returning the next day with renewed energy and often a message or small gift from Sarah: fresh butter, a jar of preserves, once even a book of poetry that Sarah thought Gabriella might enjoy. True to his word, Adam spoke with Daniel Wilson upon the young man's arrival from Ohio. At 19, Daniel was strong, eager, and completely ignorant of ranch work, a combination that Adam found promising. He'll work hard to prove himself, Adam explained to Gabriella as they discussed hiring the boy, and we can train him in our methods from the start, without having to overcome bad habits. Gabriella agreed, and Daniel joined their small operation, moving into the bunkhouse and bringing youthful enthusiasm to the daily tasks. With 3 pairs of hands now available, progress accelerated. The vegetable garden flourished, providing fresh produce for their meals. The alfalfa seed arrived and was planted in the north field, promising future feed for their growing herd. For Gabriella, the transformation extended beyond the physical improvements to the ranch. The crushing isolation of the months following her father's death had given way to purposeful days and companionable evenings. Often, Adam would stay for supper, their conversations ranging far beyond ranch business to books they had read, places they had seen, dreams they still harbored. On Sundays, they joined the Wilsons for dinner after church services, expanding their small circle to include others who accepted their partnership without the judgment that some in town still exhibited. These gatherings were filled with laughter, music from Sarah's piano, and a sense of community that Gabriella had sorely missed. It was during one such Sunday in late May, as they sat on the Wilsons' porch enjoying the mild evening, that Sarah pulled Gabriella aside while the men discussed the merits of different cattle breeds with Mr. Wilson. You look happy, Sarah observed, her voice low enough not to be overheard. Happier than I've seen you since before your father passed. Gabriella smiled, acknowledging the truth of her friend's words. I am. The ranch is coming back to life. We're making progress. It feels like. She hesitated, searching for the right words. Like I'm fulfilling Father's faith in me. It's more than that, Sarah said shrewdly. It's Adam, isn't it? Heat rose to Gabriella's cheeks. Adam is a good partner. Hard-working, knowledgeable. The ranch wouldn't be recovering without him. Partner, Sarah repeated with a knowing smile. Is that all he is to you? What else would he be? Gabriella asked, though her quickened pulse betrayed her awareness of the feelings she had been carefully avoiding examining. Gabriella Hayes, don't play innocent with me, Sarah chided gently. I've seen how you look at him when you think no one's watching. And more importantly, I've seen how he looks at you. Sarah, please, Gabriella protested, glancing nervously toward the men. Our arrangement is strictly business. For now, Sarah conceded. But business has a way of becoming personal when two people work so closely together. Especially two people who clearly admire each other as much as you and Adam do. Gabriella remained silent, unable to deny her friend's observations, yet unwilling to acknowledge the growing warmth she felt in Adam's presence. It's nothing to be ashamed of, Sarah continued softly. He's a good man, Gabriella. Mother says she's never had a more considerate boarder, and Daniel worships the ground he walks on. I know he's a good man, Gabriella admitted, but our partnership has a defined term 1 year. After that, who knows what will happen? Sarah squeezed her hand. Sometimes the heart knows before the head is ready to admit it. Just don't close yourself off to possibilities because you're afraid of change or loss. You've had enough of both already. Before Gabriella could respond, Adam approached, his expression curious. You ladies look serious. Should I be worried? Not at all, Sarah replied with a bright smile. I was just telling Gabriella how much we've enjoyed having you as part of our community these past weeks. Adam's gaze shifted to Gabriella, a question in his eyes that she couldn't quite answer. The pleasure has been mine, he said. You've all made me feel welcome in a way I haven't experienced in a long time. Well, that's what neighbors are for, Sarah declared, rising from her seat. Now, who's ready for some of Mother's apple pie? As the evening continued, Gabriella found herself acutely aware of Adam's presence beside her on the porch swing, of the occasional brush of his arm against hers, of the warmth in his voice when he spoke her name. Sarah's words had given form to feelings that had been developing for weeks, feelings that both exhilarated and terrified her. The ride home was quiet, the moonlight illuminating the familiar landscape as their horses walked side by side. Daniel had ridden ahead, eager to return to a book he'd been reading, leaving Gabriella and Adam to follow at a more leisurely pace. You're thoughtful tonight, Adam observed, breaking the comfortable silence. Everything all right? Gabriella nodded, grateful for the darkness that hid her expression. Just tired, I suppose. It's been a busy week. A productive one, Adam agreed. The alfalfa is sprouting nicely, and the new calves are strong. We're making good progress. We are, Gabriella acknowledged. Father would be pleased, I think. I'm sure he would be, Adam said warmly. Proud, too, of how you've fought to keep his dream alive. His words touched her deeply. I couldn't have done it without you, she admitted. I'm not sure I've properly thanked you for that. Adam was quiet for a moment, his profile thoughtful in the moonlight. You don't need to thank me, Gabriella. This partnership has given me something I've been searching for longer than I realized, a place to belong, a purpose beyond the next job or the next town. The honesty in his voice resonated with something in Gabriella's own heart. For years, the ranch had been her anchor, her purpose. But in recent weeks, that purpose had expanded to include not just preserving her father's legacy, but building something new alongside Adam, something that felt increasingly like a shared future rather than a temporary arrangement. As they approached the ranch, the house a dark silhouette against the starlit sky, Gabriella found herself reluctant for the evening to end. These moments between work and rest, when it was just the two of them talking quietly beneath the vast Dakota sky, had become precious to her. Would you like some coffee before you head back to the Wilsons? She offered as they reached the barn. Adam hesitated, clearly weighing the propriety of the invitation against his own inclination. It's getting late, he said finally. But thank you for the offer. Gabriella nodded, hiding her disappointment. Of course, it is late. They dismounted and led their horses into the barn, the familiar tasks of unsaddling and grooming providing a comfortable routine in the lantern light. Working side by side, they moved with the easy coordination that had developed between them over the weeks, anticipating each other's needs, passing brushes and water buckets without words. I was thinking, Adam said as they finished, his voice casual though something in his tone suggested the words were carefully chosen, that it might make sense for me to move into the bunkhouse with Daniel soon. Gabriella looked up sharply. Oh. The ride from the Wilsons takes time that could be better spent here, Adam explained. And with calving season and planting taking up so much energy, it would be more practical. Practical, Gabriella echoed, the word reminding her uncomfortably of Blackwood's description of marriage. Yes, I suppose it would be. Adam studied her face in the lantern light. You don't seem convinced. Gabriella sighed, knowing she needed to be honest. It's not that I disagree with the logic. It's just, people talk enough already about our arrangement. If you move onto the property, the gossip will intensify, Adam finished for her. I understand. Your reputation is important. Not just for me, Gabriella clarified. For the ranch, for our business relationships. Perception matters in a community this small. Adam nodded slowly. You're right, of course. It was just a thought. They finished their tasks in silence. The easy camaraderie of earlier replaced by an awkward tension that Gabriella didn't know how to dispel. As they stepped out of the barn into the cool night air, Adam turned to her, his expression serious in the moonlight. Gabriella, I want you to know that I would never do anything to compromise your standing in this community. If my presence here is causing difficulties, it isn't, Gabriella interrupted quickly. That's not what I meant at all. You've been everything I could have hoped for in a partner. More honestly, the admission slipped out before she could consider its implications, hanging in the air between them like a revelation neither was quite ready to address. Adam's expression softened. I'm glad to hear that, because working with you, seeing your determination and courage up close. It's been an honor. Their eyes held for a long moment, the connection between them palpable in the quiet night. Gabriella felt her heart beating faster, aware that they were standing on the edge of something that went beyond their business arrangement, beyond the careful boundaries they had established. I should go, Adam said finally, his voice husky. It's late, and tomorrow will be another long day. Yes, Gabriella agreed, though everything in her wanted to ask him to stay, to continue this conversation that seemed to be leading somewhere both thrilling and terrifying. Good night, Gabriella, Adam said softly, his hand briefly touching hers, a fleeting contact that nonetheless sent warmth coursing through her. Good night, Adam. Ride safely. As she watched him mount his horse and ride away, Gabriella acknowledged the truth that Sarah had recognized before she herself had been willing to admit it. Her feelings for Adam Calloway had grown far beyond those of a business partner or even a friend. Somewhere amid the shared work and conversations, the mutual respect and quiet support, she had begun to fall in love with him. The realization was both exhilarating and frightening. Their partnership had been structured as a temporary arrangement, with clear terms and an exit strategy. Love had never been part of the equation. Yet here it was, complicating everything with its insistent presence. Inside the house, Gabriella moved through her evening routine mechanically, her mind still on the conversation in the barn and the unspoken currents that had flowed beneath the words. What was she to do with these feelings? Express them and risk rejection, or perhaps worse, acceptance based on obligation rather than genuine reciprocation? Or keep them hidden, maintaining the professional relationship that had served them both so well? Sleep eluded her that night as she tossed and turned, weighing possibilities and fears in equal measure. By dawn, she had resolved to continue as before, focusing on the work of the ranch and allowing whatever might develop between them to unfold naturally, without pressure or expectation. The morning brought new challenges to distract her from personal concerns. Daniel reported that one of the pregnant cows had wandered from the herd, likely seeking isolation for calving. With Adam not due to arrive for another hour, Gabriella saddled her horse and set out with Daniel to locate the missing animal. They found her in a sheltered draw near the creek, already in labor, her sides heaving with effort. Gabriella dismounted quickly, assessing the situation with the knowledge passed down from her father. She's having trouble, she told Daniel. The calf is probably positioned wrong. We need to help her. Daniel's eyes widened, his city upbringing evident in his expression of alarm. What do we do? First, we stay calm, Gabriella instructed, removing her jacket and rolling up her sleeves. Then I need to check the position of the calf. The next half hour was intense, with Gabriella guiding Daniel through the process of assisting the laboring cow. Despite his initial squeamishness, the young man proved steady and willing to follow directions. Together, they managed to reposition the calf and help the cow deliver safely. That's it, Gabriella encouraged as the newborn calf emerged, slick and trembling. She did it. Daniel's face broke into a wide grin as the mother cow began licking her calf, cleaning the birth fluids from its damp coat. "We did it," he corrected. "I've never seen anything like that before." "It's the miracle of ranching," Gabriella said, smiling despite her exhaustion and the mess that covered her arms and clothes. "New life, new beginnings." "Miss Hayes," Adam's voice called from the rise above the draw. "Daniel, down here," Gabriella called back, waving. Adam appeared on horseback, his expression shifting from concern to relief as he took in the scene below. Dismounting quickly, he led his horse down the slope to join them. "I see our wanderer decided to start the calving season without waiting for us," he remarked, crouching beside the new mother and her calf. "Looks like you two handled it well." "Miss Hayes knew exactly what to do," Daniel said admiringly. "The calf was all twisted around, but she fixed it." Adam's eyes met Gabriella's, warm with approval and something deeper that made her breath catch. "I'm not surprised. She's a natural rancher." The pride in his voice brought color to Gabriella's cheeks. "My father made sure I understood every aspect of cattle raising, including the messy parts." "A wise man," Adam said, his gaze still holding hers. "He'd be proud of you today." The moment stretched between them, charged with unspoken emotions, until Daniel's voice broke the spell. "Should we try to move them back to the main herd?" he asked. Adam shook his head. "Not yet. Let the calf get steady on its feet first, and the mother recover from her ordeal. We can bring them some water and check on them later." With the immediate crisis resolved, they prepared to return to the ranch house. As Daniel rode ahead with the water bucket, Adam fell in beside Gabriella, his expression thoughtful. "You've got a good assistant there," he observed. "Daniel's learning quickly." "He is," Gabriella agreed. "What he lacks in experience, he makes up for in willingness." "The best kind of student," Adam said with a smile. "Reminds me of myself at his age, eager to learn everything about ranching, even the difficult parts." "Is that when you decided to become a cattleman?" Gabriella asked, realizing how little she knew about Adam's path to their partnership. Adam's expression grew distant. "No, that came later. I was working odd jobs after my parents died, anything to keep food on the table. A cattle drive came through our town in Kansas, and they needed extra hands. I signed on thinking it would just be a few weeks' work." "But you stayed with it," Gabriella prompted when he fell silent. "I did," Adam confirmed. "There was something about the life that called to me, the open spaces, the honest work, the camaraderie of the trail. By the time we reached Dodge City, I knew I'd found my calling." "And yet you never settled in one place," Gabriella observed. "Until now." Adam glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "I never found the right place to put down roots. Or perhaps I wasn't ready to stop searching. And now?" The question slipped out before Gabriella could reconsider its implications. "Now," Adam said slowly, his eyes meeting hers, "I'm beginning to think that what I've been looking for was here all along." The words hung between them, laden with meaning that neither seemed ready to fully articulate. Gabriella's heart raced as she recognized the sentiment behind them, a mirror of her own evolving feelings. Before she could respond, Daniel's voice called from ahead, breaking the moment. "Miss Hayes, Mr. Calloway, riders coming." They urged their horses forward, cresting the rise to see 3 mounted men approaching the ranch house from the direction of town. Even at a distance, Gabriella recognized Edgar Blackwood's distinctive figure at the lead. "What does he want now?" she muttered, anxiety replacing the warmth of moments before. "Nothing good," Adam replied grimly. "Let's find out." They rode swiftly to intercept the visitors, reaching the yard just as Blackwood and his companions, one of whom Gabriella recognized as Sheriff Taylor, dismounted. "Miss Hayes," Blackwood greeted with false cordiality. "You're looking robust this morning." Gabriella was acutely aware of her disheveled appearance, clothes stained from the calving, hair escaping its pins, face flushed from exertion. But she lifted her chin, refusing to be embarrassed by honest work. "Mr. Blackwood." "Sheriff, this is unexpected." Sheriff Taylor nodded uncomfortably. "Miss Hayes, Mr. Calloway." The third man, a narrow-faced individual in an expensive suit, regarded them with cold assessment. "This is the man?" he asked Blackwood, jerking his chin toward Adam. "It is," Blackwood confirmed. "Adam Calloway, as he calls himself here." The emphasis on here sent a chill through Gabriella. She glanced at Adam, whose expression had hardened into watchful caution. "What is this about?" Adam asked directly. Blackwood smiled, the expression more predatory than pleasant. "Mr. Harrington here has come all the way from Kansas City on business. Business that apparently concerns you." The suited man stepped forward. "I represent the First National Bank of Kansas City. We've been looking for a man matching your description for some time, sir. A man who absconded with bank funds approximately 14 months ago." Gabriella felt as though the ground had dropped away beneath her. She stared at Adam, searching his face for denial, for explanation. "That's a serious accusation," Adam said evenly. "And entirely false." "Is it?" Harrington withdrew a folded paper from his jacket. "We have a witness who identified you as being present at the bank the day the funds disappeared. And your sudden departure from Kansas City the following morning certainly suggests guilt." "I've never stolen anything in my life," Adam stated firmly. "And I left Kansas City because I'd secured a job on the Mitchell Ranch in Nebraska. Dozens of people can confirm I worked there from April through September last year." "Yet you arrived in Sweetwater with a considerable sum of money," Blackwood interjected smoothly. "Enough to save Miss Hayes' ranch from foreclosure. Money you claim to have saved from ranch work." The implication was clear and devastating in its logic. Gabriella felt sick as doubt crept into her mind, poisoning the trust she had built in Adam over the past weeks. "Sheriff," she said, turning to Taylor, "surely you're not accepting these accusations without evidence." Sheriff Taylor shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Harrington has a sworn statement from a bank employee, Miss Hayes. And when Mr. Blackwood mentioned a stranger who had suddenly appeared with unexpected funds, well, it merits investigation at least." "Investigation, yes," Gabriella agreed. "Not public accusation without proof." "The proof will come," Blackwood assured her, his tone solicitous though his eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "In the meantime, perhaps you should reconsider the wisdom of your partnership with Mr. Calloway." Adam's expression had grown increasingly grim as the exchange continued. "This is about the ranch, isn't it, Blackwood? You couldn't buy it, so now you're trying to destroy the partnership that saved it." "This is about justice," Blackwood replied coldly, "and protecting a vulnerable young woman from exploitation by a criminal." "I am not vulnerable," Gabriella snapped, anger overcoming her initial shock. "And until proven otherwise, Mr. Calloway is innocent of these charges." Sheriff Taylor cleared his throat. "Be that as it may, Miss Hayes, I'll need Mr. Calloway to come to town for questioning. Mr. Harrington has the right to present his evidence." "And if I refuse?" Adam asked quietly. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be, son," Taylor advised. "Come peacefully, answer the questions, and if you're innocent as you claim, you'll be back here by supper time." Gabriella could see Adam weighing his options, tension evident in every line of his body. She stepped closer to him, her voice low. "Go with them, Adam. Clear this up. I'll ride into town later." His eyes met hers, searching for reassurance that she believed in his innocence. Gabriella wished she could offer it unequivocally, but doubt had crept in, undermining the certainty she wanted to feel. "All right," Adam said finally, addressing the sheriff. "I'll come with you. But I want it on record that I deny these accusations completely." "Noted," Taylor replied, obvious relief in his voice. "You can bring your horse. No need for restraints if you give me your word you won't try to run." "You have it," Adam said stiffly. As he mounted his horse, Adam looked down at Gabriella one last time. "This isn't what it seems," he said quietly. "Remember that." Then they were gone, riding toward town in a cloud of dust, leaving Gabriella standing in the yard with Daniel, her mind reeling from the accusations and their implications. "Miss Hayes," Daniel ventured hesitantly, "do you think Mr. Calloway really—" "No," Gabriella said firmly, the certainty in her voice surprising even herself. "No, I don't. This is Blackwood's doing, somehow. He's determined to get this ranch, and he sees Adam as the obstacle." The conviction she heard in her own words clarified something important despite the seeds of doubt Blackwood had tried to plant. She trusted Adam. The man she had come to know over these past weeks was not a thief or a confidence man. He was honest, hardworking, and principled. Whatever this accusation was, there had to be an explanation. "What are we going to do?" Daniel asked, his young face troubled. Gabriella straightened her shoulders, her resolve hardening. "First, We're going to finish our morning chores. Then I'm going to clean up and ride into town. I need to hear exactly what evidence they claim to have against Adam. As Daniel headed toward the barn, Gabriella looked in the direction the riders had disappeared. Blackwood had underestimated her if he thought these accusations would drive a permanent wedge between her and Adam. She might have moments of doubt, but her instincts told her to trust the man she had come to care for deeply. And right now, those instincts were telling her that Adam Calloway was in serious trouble that had everything to do with Edgar Blackwood's determination to possess her land, and nothing to do with any crime in Kansas City. With renewed purpose, Gabriella strode toward the house. Whatever game Blackwood was playing, she intended to uncover the truth and stand by the partner who had risked everything to save her ranch. The man who, she now admitted to herself, had become far more than a business associate in her heart. The accusations against Adam would not go unanswered. Not while Gabriella Hayes had breath in her body and the same determination that had kept her fighting for her father's legacy all these months. Blackwood had just made a serious miscalculation. He had given her something new to fight for. And this time, she had no intention of losing.